Hello, this is Nathan on Shuffle, and I've got another edition for you of New Music Shuffle, where I go through a couple new albums that I've been enjoying lately and share them with you, hoping that you might seek them out and enjoy them as well. So there's some good albums here that I wanted to discuss that I hope you'll find some interest in. And as always, I'm going to link some things in the description so that you can go check out these bands and hopefully check out their music if something here interests you. So that's the purpose here. I hope that this will lead to some discovery of music, because these are things that I've been enjoying lately and that really inspire me and show me that great new music is still being created now, and it's not just all, old 70s music that's the best and anything created later is terrible. There's great music being made today, and really in all genres, but for me specifically, I really focus on progressive music. So that's what we've got here, is a trio of progressive rock albums that I've really been enjoying lately that I hope to share with you. So let's get into it. All right, first on my list, I've got the new album from Nad Sylvan called Spiritus Mundi. Of course, Nad Sylvan, pretty familiar name in the prog realm, modern prog realm, at least from my circles. Swedish artist. He's done a lot with Roy Stolt, with Agents of Mercy, and he's been playing a lot on the road with Steve Hackett. So he's been around the cycle of prog here. He did a trilogy of solo albums, kind of referred to as the Vampire Trilogy. There's some connecting concepts and themes between those albums. All excellent, really great progressive rock that's really inspired, and I really enjoy those albums quite a bit. But he kind of switches the script a little for this new album, Spiritus Mundi. It's kind of a different feel of an album than those previous ones that I mentioned. This album he paired with another artist whose name is Andrew Latris, a songwriter and composer who I believe is from Canada, if I remember correctly from interviews with Nad Sylvan. He's really brought a new dimension to this music. It's a bit of a pastoral type feel, I'd say, as compared to his more proggier Vampire Trilogy. But it's such a great feel. It really is inspired. I really like what's on display here. It's just, there's a lot to enjoy. To just sit back, put on this album, and just really take it all in. To listen to the great acoustic guitars and orchestration, and it's just really beautiful and it envelops you. They took inspiration from the poetry of William Butler Yeats. That's where all the lyrics come from for the main album. Just really beautiful poetry, and it's really expertly done how they put the poetry to the music and make it fit. Sometimes I would imagine it could be tricky to have this music and try to take an established writing from another artist and try to fit it into the music where it feels natural. This poetry wasn't really written with the intention of being as part of a song, but it really all fits and works well here. I don't even think about that aspect when I'm listening. It just sounds like beautiful poetry set to music that fits extremely well. It's just beautiful, pastoral, a lot of acoustic guitar, just some orchestration. There's some strings in the mix and things that kind of beef up the sound a bit. Nad Sylvan does most of the vocals, and I love his voice. He has this Peter Gabriel style, but also has his own unique flavor into that mix. I think it's really great sound and puts a unique stamp on him, that he has a very unique quality to him that really sets him aside, in my opinion, in that world. But you can see how Steve Hackett pulled him to do Peter Gabriel style vocals, because he does have that quality. But I think there's a lot more there, a lot more texture, and a lot more interesting variations in his voice that come out. And Andrew Latris also does some singing on this album. Not quite as much, but he does get a chance to shine on a couple tracks. Most notably, he does the vocals on The Realists. So just really cool, switching that up and giving him a chance, which he has a really nice voice as well, kind of a higher, almost like a John Anderson or even John Davidson type of voice is kind of what I was hearing. So I really enjoyed hearing that contrast and hearing kind of different voices here. And there's a lot of highlights. I really love it. I love the Sailing to Byzantium is just really epic and really sweeping and just beautiful with some orchestration and filling out that sound in just such an epic fashion. I really love Caps and Bells. Just a softer, more acoustic section, just beautifully sung and beautifully played. Just really a laid back, great vibe to it that I really enjoy. And I like the Hawk. I think the Hawk is maybe one of the standouts on this album. Just gorgeous melodies and just really beautiful, and it's evoking such a majesty and such a certain vibe that I think really comes across amazingly. So it's just a really fantastic album. Not really what I was expecting from Nad Sylvan. It doesn't sound much like his prior solo works, but it really, the more I hear it, the more I kind of realize that I need this kind of music in my life, that it gives me this relaxing, laid back nature that really is important, is something that I really enjoy in music. Sometimes all the heaviness of certain music or all the notes per second that some of the other prog musicians have, sometimes it gets a little overwhelming and I need something a little bit quieter, a little bit more peaceful. And I think this kind of fits that bill. So definitely strong recommendation. I think this is a great, great album that has come out in the last little while. So please check it out if you can. And so that is Nad Sylvan's Spiritus Mundi. Next, I'd like to talk about Wheel, the band. Album Resident Human. This is their second album. They're a band from Finland, and this album is really a really good album. It's really strong. It really showcases that they're a band that's growing in their abilities. It's very much a heavier progressive metal style, especially compared to the Nad Sylvan record that was just talked about. This is something quite a bit heavier, very much Tool inspired. That's kind of the main reference point here. It sounds very much like Tool. It has that same kind of instrumentation. It has the bass drums and guitar and vocals combo, and has the polyrhythms and the things that you'd associate with Tool, the darker atmospheric kind of tones and vibes. And they definitely have that in spades here. And it really is a cool combination of things that comes together. It's a very dark album. I feel like there's a lot of maybe anger and darkness kind of in the lyrics and in the presentation here. A lot of heavy passages that are very harsh in certain sections, but I think it's really well crafted. Great melodies. Just the guitar really is sweeping and has a lot of great moments, and there's just a lot of complexity and different things in the mixture. It's a really strong album that has a lot going for it, and I really like kind of this darkness and this twistedness nature to it, and it takes on a lot of relevant themes and things that the world is dealing with kind of some darker tones. It's kind of fitting with what's happening in certain ways in the world, I would say, and I think they're capturing that in a really, really artistic and really great way. So I recommend this as well. I think it's really strong. The highlight track to me is Hyperion, is one that I really like. There's a couple, I believe like 3 longer tracks here on the album, and then a couple shorter tracks. The shorter tracks are kind of more, I'm reminded of Carnival, kind of this hard-hitting, aggressive kind of tracks. But I kind of prefer the longer tracks. Gives a lot more room to breathe, gives these kind of atmospheric sections balanced with some heavier, more metal sections, and it kind of creates a good balance and that I like in my music. And Hyperion is a great example of that, where it just has so much going for it. Takes you on such a journey throughout its runtime, and I just think it's a really strong piece on the album. Also just as strong as the title track, which is also long. epic that kind of closes out the album. Um, Really great polyrhythms and all those sections, and just really has a lot of strong uh, dark vibes. And I just think they're really talented. They do a lot, and there's so much on display here that I think is fun to explore. And it ends with kind of this really nice melody, this piano melody, and this kind of outro that's called Old Earth, and it's kind of beautiful and haunting, and really gives a nice ending to this work. I think it's really a great album and strongly recommend, especially if you like bands like Tool and Carnival and that side of the spectrum. There's heaviness, but no, super aggression, no growling vocals or anything like that, but definitely a dark vibe on this album that I think is personified by the cover is kind of dark. So definitely recommended for fans of those types of bands. I've really been liking it more and more as I listen more and more. So really a strong album, another high recommendation from me. And the last album I want to talk about and recommend is a band called Konom. This is their new self-titled album. They're a new band. I believe they had an EP released under a previous name, but this is their first full-length release under this name is Konom. It's a band from the UK, and they're fantastic. They really, for a debut, once again, really hit it out of the park. It's just amazing what they can do at such a young stage in their band. I'm blown away by what a lot of these younger bands do in their debut records, that they start at such a high level. And it's just interesting to see how they'll progress from here if they're already starting at such a high level of musicianship and sound quality. The production actually is pretty darn good on this record. I'm really excited by this band and their potential. There's a lot of vibes of like an early Dream Theater era, like Images and Words to Falling into Infinity type Dream Theater era. They definitely pull some influences from there, but I also get a bit of like Haken in the mix with how they kind of put in these cool different instrumental sections into their music, and it has that kind of vibe of pure musical exhilaration and different sections that really go in different ways and really explore a lot of musicality and a lot of ability of the players just in their instruments. I really enjoy what the band has on offer. It starts with A Welcome Change, which kind of, the opening gives me vibes of like New Millennium from Dream Theater, kind of has that section, and then it goes into a bunch of other things. One thing I would like to mention is one of the things I struggled with when I first heard this was the lead singer. I felt like his voice wasn't quite to my taste, and it's hard for me to pin down exactly what it is that's not connecting with me with his voice, but I do feel that it's improved over time. The more I listen to it, the more I'm enjoying his music, his singing style. So, but there's just kind of an operatic quality. He kind of veers pretty far out there when he's singing, a really strong section, and sometimes it can be a little grating to me, but I think it's really coming together the more I listen to it. I'm starting to understand his placement in the group, and I feel like hearing him sing on some of the softer sections makes me realize he actually does have an excellent voice. It's just sometimes it feels maybe a bit strained in some of the bigger moments, but maybe it's partly his style, and so it's kind of, I'm coming to terms with how that is and what his voice is doing. But as I said, I'm feeling it's improving as I listen more. I think I'm starting to get used to that style, and it's really proving to be an interesting facet of the group. So, but the musicality I've always loved since the first listen. I love the guitar playing is just excellent throughout. There's almost like a jazzy grooviness to the playing in certain sections that's really appealing to me. I like that style. One of the standout tracks to me is Biru Tunda. The second track on the album just really runs the gamut between kind of a slower build up and then bursting out of the seams with some great instrumental work. I think it's really strong track. It even features Jim Godfrey from Frost as doing a keyboard solo, which is absolutely amazing about halfway through the track. It's definitely worth checking out, especially for Frost fans. Just really a fantastic track that really is strong, and probably if you were going to check out a track from this album, that would be my recommendation, is to check that second track out, Birutunda. And the album closes with a multi-part epic called The Great Harvest, split into like 5 different sections. Really another strong section of stuff. It kind of brings to mind Haken, their last album, Virus. They had a multi-part epic called Messiah Complex. This kind of has a similar structure in my mind. A lot of crazy instrumental stuff going on in all the different tracks, broken up by some singing sections that are really cool. Different melodies going all over the place, and it ends, of course, in an epic, sweeping, majestic fashion. Just everything you'd want from an artist like this. I really think it's a grandiose ending that really marks for a strong debut record from the group. I recommend it. I think it's really strong. I think there's a lot of promise, and I think that they will continue to do great things in the music realm. I'm really excited for where they head from here, and really hoping that they do more and that there's another release from them, and that they kind of develop their sound even more as they continue onward. I love, one of my favorite things is watching new upcoming bands in this style of progressive rock, because it gives me hope that there's still interest in the genre, that there's still going to be more music being made that's not a dying genre, that there's still bands excited about the same music that I'm excited about. So very promising. I love their work, and I'm excited to see where they go. So that is it for my new music shuffle today. 3 incredible albums that I think are all worthy of strong recommendations. Once again, Nad Sylvan, Spiritus, Mundi, fantastic. Pastoral, prog, kind of Genesis, Steve Hackett inspired. And then you've got Wheel and their album Resident Human, very Tool, heavy, atmospheric, but also metal in sections, just definitely a dark vibe to the whole record. And then Konom, their self-titled album, which is kind of like early Dream Theater, positive, uplifting vibes, which is kind of refreshing, and really great, promising young band that is getting their feet wet here with a great debut record. So that is the slate of records, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Fantastic recommendations. I hope you check them out. Look in the description for some places you can go to look up these groups. And as always, I hope if you like what you're seeing, you subscribe as I continue to try to recommend great new music. And I hope that you will continue to follow me on social media, as you can find it in the description. And thanks again for watching. This has been fun. And this is Nathan on Shuffle.